Hello there, and welcome to the Construction Revolution podcast. My name is Stephen Rossi, and here on the show, we explore the latest trends, technologies, people, and organizations that are revolutionizing or disrupting the construction industry and are changing what the industry will look like tomorrow. Today, we're excited to welcome Antonio Manchisi, Vice President of Construction at Sapphire Balconies. With over 2 decades of experience in management and operations across the pre-construction and modular sections, Antonio brings a wealth of insight to the conversation. Join us as we explore how Sapphire Balconies is revolutionizing balcony construction in North America by bringing an innovative and modular approach. Hi, Antonio. Thanks for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Stephen. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you on the podcast here. I've had the chance to listen to a few episodes, and I'm excited to see what we can come up with.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to learn more. It's a totally different company than we've ever had, so I'm excited to learn more about it. So why don't we start with that? If you can tell me about Sapphire Balconies and what you guys do, and also I'm curious what made you want to join the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Sapphire Balconies, in a nutshell, a UK-based company that started off manufacturing balustrades. It's a family company, so homegrown family company. And when we say that, we mean that. Most of the leadership team is related, so that's a positive thing. But they don't let that get in the way of business as a whole, which is pretty cool to see. It's not the family kind of running the entirety of the business. It's parsed out to different people that are professionals in their field and experts in their field, and they allow them to run whole. We're the industry leader in modular balcony systems. We're known for our innovation. I'd say innovation is probably key to the way we do business as a whole. Just in my time here, my short time with the company, I've seen a new concept delivered onto a building within 3 months. So from conceptual sketches to tested and on a building within 3 months. So I feel as innovation is really a high priority for the company. Design precision. We're all about making sure that the design is applicable to the building and working as a whole with the architect. And our commitment to sustainability is pretty big with Sapphire. We pioneered balcony in a box. I say balcony in a box kind of jokingly, but we pioneered balcony in a box. We send a fully functioning balcony to site ready to be installed. And when I say that it's 4 bolts and done, it's 4 bolts and done. I mean, it's it's really that easy. So we've had the opportunity to have some major players from RJC and some major players from some of the big engineering firms out near us come and see that just to verify, and every one of them was blown away. Here Canada side in Vancouver at Vienna House, we started with a virgin team, installation team, and went from a 30-minute install for the first balcony to sub 6 minutes for the last balcony we're installing. So it's a pretty cool system. You asked why I joined the company. I'm kind of career engineer. I've been in the facade world for 20 plus years. I know I'm giving my age away, but been in the facade world and the construction world for 20 plus years. Worked with all the major players in that field. Ellis Dons, PCLs, all of the major architects as well. And I was kind of looking for a new endeavor, something fun. Coming out of the executive leadership team at Antimex, and this kind of fit the bill. While it wasn't a different industry, it was kind of industry adjacent, and I liked the company. I liked what they were about. I had a chance to fly down to the UK and meet the leadership team, and that kind of solidified my choice to want to join the company. There's a clear vision. There's a clear commitment. Everybody's working towards that vision and that commitment. There's a commitment to change how construction is completed across the world, and we absolutely live by that and die by that. That's our number one requirement is change construction around the world, make it more modular, make it more efficient, make the buildings more efficient. I'm sure we'll probably talk about that a little bit later with carbon neutrality and embodied carbon, but it's just really cool to be part of that. Really cool to be part of a company that has such a drive and a vision. And more than that, everybody at the company is on the same line. We're all towing the same rope. So it's a pretty cool thing to be part of. I get to use my engineering degree, which I haven't done in probably a decade, being part of the leadership teams. So that's really fun, and they've really given me a chance to kind of learn the business as a whole from a holistic manner. So when I first started with the company, I was and still remain part of the pre-construction team as a pre-construction manager, which is a little bit different on the European side. It's more technical based than it is sales based. What we see in North America. So it gave me some time to flex and learn the company and understand the company from a holistic point of view. And that flew by. That time period flew by, and here I am now, vice president of construction, and ensuring that we're appropriately handling our construction needs and our customers' needs from a construction perspective. Although, again, I said I still stay part of the pre-construction team. I think that's very important to be part of the pre-construction team, so that when we are designing these different balconies and these different solutions, that we can make sure it's constructible and easily utilized. So, in a nutshell, it's a very big nutshell. It's like a walnut at this point, but that was kind of the reasons why I joined. And I'm happy I've done so. They've been treating me really well, and I think I've been a valued member of the Sapphire team. So yeah, it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. I think I definitely like really being part of a company. I mean, similar here at Geotech, like a clear purpose and a clear vision of driving the industry forward, and having an entire team that we all are working towards that is it's great, and it's great to hear that Sapphire has a something like that as well.
Yeah, well, we use the term disruptor, right? A lot in North America, and I think that's really what we're doing, is we're disrupting the industry a little bit now. And some of the early adopters to this method are really seeing the promise and the availability to change what they're doing and how they're doing in a positive way, right? I mean, here at Vienna House again in Vancouver, we have a building that's essentially designed passive house, and they came to us for balconies because the energy efficiency that's in an aluminum modular balcony is so much better than it is on a concrete style balcony or even a wood exposed balcony, right? So it's pretty cool to be part of that. I'm going to call it disruption, seeing as the people are called disruptors. But yeah, I truly feel that we're like a disruptive company, which is a positive thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So speaking of that, then why don't you tell me, for someone who's not super familiar with all the ways that you would typically construct a balcony, how does Sapphire's solutions, how are they different, and how are they disrupting and revolutionizing the industry?
So typical balconies that we're going to see in the Toronto area, I know where you're from as well, Stephen, but we'll see in the Toronto area is going to be a poured in place balcony. So it's going to be a cast in place with the concrete deck. I mean, you can imagine thermally that's not fantastic, seeing as there's a large chunk of concrete that goes inside to outside. And you can imagine there's other areas where that's not ideal, specifically with the form workers. While they have just become accustomed to doing this, it's not their favorite thing to do, because the forms tend to get larger, the fly forms. Moving and changing levels with those forms becomes a little bit more difficult. Again, it's something they've adapted to over the years, but it's still not an ideal process. Once that concrete balcony has been cast in place, there'll be a year's worth of facade work that goes around it, top to bottom, and then there'll be some kind of finishing trade that'll come in and paint the top of the balcony curb, and or create all the drainage to waterproof it. And then there'll be another trade that'll come in and apply the balustrade and glass. And then there'll finally be a trade that'll come in and apply any of the accoutrements, so any of the aluminum panels and such, to make it prettier. There's several different trades that have to touch these balconies as they're cast in place. That doesn't even take into account if the balcony is on a little bit of the rough side, and you see that quite often. There'll be somebody coming in, again, a third trade or a fourth trade now coming in to grind the bottom of the balcony to make it smooth, or grind the top of the balcony to make it smooth, right? More applicable for the resident. So I mean, that's the general way that balconies are built. From an RC frame perspective, which is what you'll see most often. Balconies on CLT buildings, you generally don't see. unless it's a Sapphire style balcony. And the reason you don't see that is because wood rots, and having wood extend interior to exterior just isn't really a great thing. Now there are ways around that. You'll see a lot of inset balconies, so balconies that are inset from the external side of the facade. You'll see things like that. But again, that really inhibits design from a architectural perspective. So architects are not super pleased with having to deal with that. But CLT is sustainable. It's modular. It's kind of the future, I think, of, or one of the future aspects of construction, and it's something that a lot of people are starting to buy into now, which is positive. So having to deal with balconies on CLT, I say deal with in a manner that's positive, but having to deal with balconies in a CLT building is become kind of obtuse until you realize that we're able to provide a balcony system that's going to connect to the CLT in a much easier manner, a much better manner. And finally, there's like stick frame systems. You'll see like precast balconies and stick frame, or sorry, precast construction and stick frame buildings, which I kind of put in the same boat, where precast system would be hollow core slabs all the way up a building. It's fast, it's quick, it looks good really fast, like really quickly. And then there's the stick frame, which is the same, very quick, very quick to move up a building. There are different solutions for both of those, depending on the type of precast slab. We can have embedments, in the slab to hold a balcony, and depending on the type of wood frame structure, we can have a couple of different modifications to the structure to allow for a balcony to be there. Whereas generally, you'd have again either a precast balcony that would be extending from the interior of the building to the exterior of the building for support structure, and the same is true with a wood style building, a wood stick building, where you'd have some kind of drop beam that would run, below the structure from interior to exterior. So we're trying to abate as much of that as possible, and that's generally the way a balcony would be built. Now, when you come into the perspective of Sapphire, we have an anchoring system that would either connect to the CLT, be embedded in the concrete, connect to the stick frame, or even be embedded into the exterior precast. And what that does is allow for less penetrations into the building. You can imagine, just from a scale perspective, a 6 foot long balcony would have 6 feet of concrete running into the building. A 6 foot long balcony with Sapphire would have potentially cross sectional area 4 to 7 inches of steel that would run into the balcony, inside to outside. So I mean, just from a perspective of scale, you can imagine that there's orders of magnitude, less energy transmittance that way. Once you introduce a thermal break, it's even better. And we do have full thermally broken systems. When we're talking about CLT, we have a whole host of different anchors that we can utilize with CLT. Some of them connect directly to the exterior facade with a strap inside. Some of them connect directly to the CLT slab, but we do have a whole host of those. And again, the same thing is true. You don't have any penetration interior to exterior once you introduce the thermal break. But from a CLT side, you're introducing a different level of aesthetics to the building, which you probably couldn't from a wood standpoint. The other two variations of construction, hollow core, precast, and stick wood, you can pretty well do whatever you want with those two types of building. The secret sauce there for us is that we are able to create a more energy efficient building. Because of the balcony, we're able to create a more energy efficient standpoint for the building with a stick system. And when we're coming into the hollow core, we are able to create a faster installation process and less arduous construction schedules with the Sapphire balcony. And so that's really what we aim to do, and that's the difference. But hopefully that was acceptable answer.
Absolutely, more than acceptable. That was awesome. Yeah, thank you. That's a great explanation of both systems, and yeah, the difference. I can see. Yeah, obviously the less you have to be embedded into the building, the better. So I'm curious. Like you mentioned, like modular and sort of these prefab systems are becoming more popular, but I'm sure you still encounter people that and projects where they're resistant or hesitant to adopt these sort of solutions. So, yeah, how have you found that in sort of working at Sapphire, and is that something that you encounter a lot?
We have encountered a lot. I don't want to say pushback. Everybody is very interested in the system. It's been a bit of a tough go to understand how the system benefits more than just a thermal perspective. Not every building owner is completely into the thermal perspective and overall longevity of the product versus a concrete style balcony, etc. Um, where the real savings come for a builder, for a developer, is going to be schedule time. Um, Balconies are no longer on the critical path when you're using a Sapphire balcony, in that you're not pouring slabs, and you're not coming back to pour external slabs, in different areas of the building. So the critical path can be greatly reduced. The secondary notion that we try and push quite consistently is that, from a facade perspective, and me coming from the facade world, the penetration aspect of it, we can make the facade manufacturer's life quite a bit easier. Uh, Instead of having to make panels that are going to, ebb and flow and jig around balcony slabs, now we're making panels that are flat and straight. The sealing perspective becomes easier. You're not having to seal around a balcony slab for in a window wall situation, for instance. You could just continue your slab cover all the way around the building with two small holes, rather than having to come up with a new detail and apply a new detail on site. If we can make the facade life easier, the facade people's life easier, then we can make everybody's life easier. And facade is 100% on the critical path. 100% of the time, facade is on the critical path. So, closing in the building more quickly is a giant benefit to this. And how we get there is, again, less penetrations. From a longevity perspective, if ownership has a rental building versus, say, a condo, owners are more apt to want to have less penetrations through the wall. The exterior facade, and less penetrations means a host of different things, but more specifically it means less work in the future for upgrading, and less work in the future for maintaining. What it means from the initial build perspective is there's less work in sealing. The system itself, from the perspective of the facade manufacturer, is going to be manufactured now in a factory rather than have to be field sealed. So that's kind of the way we've been jumping on that. The commercial viability perspective is another one that people have provided some pushback on, but we've had some really good feedback from a multitude of different builders and some other partners, even within the construction world. So precast facades, facades, curtain wall facades, some of these large format walls that we're seeing now, facades. We've had some really good feedback, and I mean, I think the commercial viability speaks for itself now that we're on some high-rise buildings, we're on some low-rise buildings, we're on some bespoke, buildings for governmental use. I mean, we're, and that's just in the last 2 years. So I can't imagine where we're going to be in, 5 or 6. And I think, the commercial viability is one that's, from the smaller builder perspective, has been hard to get over that hump. I think everyone's starting to see the light there now as well. It's not just that the upfront cost is there and everyone goes, wow, this is expensive. It's understanding it from a whole holistic perspective within the building life cycle. How does this work? And I'm going to put a number out there. I believe a concrete balcony has to be refinished and reviewed every 10 years, so every decade, which sounds pretty good, and that is pretty good. A Sapphire balcony, aside from cleaning, shouldn't need any work for 50 years, and we have a 60-year life cycle. So these balconies are usable for the entire life cycle of a building, and then oftentimes, once you hit that 30, 40-year plan where you're having to redo your facade anyways, we're taking the balconies down, cleaning them, and putting them back up. So they're working in that same perspective. I mean, I wouldn't advocate for that because I'd like to sell more balconies. So when you hit that 30 years, give us a call and we'll replace all your balconies for you.
Yeah, well, actually, that was going to be my follow-up question is, yeah, how long do these last? And like, yeah, is it as simple as we just take it off and put a new one up, and or so it sounds like it is that simple.
It's exactly that simple. And that lends itself to an interesting comment as well. There is times when balconies are damaged. A fire, let's say, inside of a tenant residence. And that's a real thing that's happened. We've had a fire melt a balcony. Instead of having to bring in concrete crews and different types of other trades, we were able to bring a single trade in there, remove the balcony, have a new one ready within a few weeks, and put it back up. The only thing we had to do was lock the balcony door to make sure anybody wasn't able to get out there any longer, right? And it's at no impedance to the the unit itself, so people can continue to live in the unit. I mean, this was a fire cause, so I'm sure they didn't, but that people can continue to live in the unit while balcony repair is happening. To that point. I mean, there's other variations of what could happen to a balcony. I mean, we've probably seen it a bunch of times. People just misusing, or fire or wind damage, or whatever happens, something blows off another building and hits it, and that's a positive side of what we can do, is we can replace an entire balcony relatively quickly, and with little to no pain to the support staff at the building.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not being able to do it without disrupting, yeah, the resident and also like to the building management for sure. Um, nice. So then moving on to sort of, you touched on this like the sustainability aspect. Can you tell me about the carbon neutrality of Sapphire Balconies?
Yeah. So Sapphire is a carbon neutral company. The balconies, just by volition that they do have materials in them, can never be truly carbon neutral. But the company itself is a carbon neutral company, meaning we offset 100% of our carbon. Throughout the COVID times, I think everybody's placed a lot of tenure on carbon neutrality and this, and got companies thinking, what do we need to do to be better for the environment and better for our future? Sapphire took kind of the hard route. We could have just offset. We have a number here. We know what a building this size does, et cetera, et cetera. We could have just offset. Instead, we took on the challenge to measure all of our carbon within the office and within our manufacturing. So we measure all of that carbon. From day one on measuring that carbon, we've been offsetting that carbon. So different initiatives to offset that carbon, with internally and externally, but we do fully offset our carbon, and that's measurable. We also went down the road of having EPDs provided for all of our products. And I mean, that's third party verified. So we have these for our product, and that allows everybody to understand that we are putting our money where our mouth is. These products actually do what they say they're going to do. We set ourselves a difficult upfront challenge, and I'm going to use a UK term, but it's the best graft for us. It's the best way for us to move forward as a company. Again, not only from a holistic point of view of being better for the earth and being better for our future, our future offspring, and the future world, but being better for us. I mean, we're finding that being carbon neutral is actually positive for business, number one, but number two is actually positive within the business. We're finding ways to be more creative in processual manufacturing. So our manufacturing process has become so streamlined because of this variation, that we're saving money, not just carbon, right? We're saving money. So the company is dedicated to ensuring that we're going to continue to be carbon neutral. And we're dedicated now onto the second portion of that path, which is going to be removing as much carbon from our balconies as possible. Interesting factoid: our current balcony system with a thermal break versus a concrete balcony without a thermal break, most concrete balconies don't have thermal breaks, is 86%. I'm just looking it up here. 86% more effective at heat loss in a building. So I mean, that's orders of magnitude better for the building as a whole, for the people within that building. It's more comfortable. But from a carbon perspective, you're not pumping the heat as much. You're not pumping the AC as much. There's a reason why we're doing this, and it's not just because it looks good on a piece of paper. It's because it's right for the world, and it's right for, big statement there, right for the world, but it's right for the world, and it's right for the people that are living in these apartments. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is that we can make outdoor space for people in apartments much more beneficial, much more usable, and just a much nicer place to be. And that's that extends into I guess indoor space a little bit, in that we're allowing them to not to have to run their ACs and such as much, right? Which is pretty cool. I mean, we were first in industry to offer carbon neutrality as a company. I mean, that doesn't mean much here in North America yet, because we're kind of the only game in town. But in the UK and Europe, it means a lot a lot. There are much more balcony manufacturers in the UK and Europe, and I mean, that's probably an important point to touch on as well. We like to say here in North America that we're a few years behind Europe. Europe has been only utilizing balconies of this style for, I think it's 15 years. I might be wrong on that. You can fact check me on that, but 12 to 15 years. So almost every balcony you see in the UK and Europe is going to be this type of balcony. So I mean, our construction will catch up eventually, and we'll see the benefits of it. But yeah, no, pretty positive on that side. Hopefully, I answered the question. If there's anything that I didn't answer, I mean, please feel free. I have a tendency to ramble sometimes.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's interesting to hear about like Europe, and yeah, and obviously a lot of the construction practices are different and arguably more advanced in some, especially on the sustainability, without a doubt. Um,
Absolutely.
I, yeah, from a company point of view, it's great that you're not just blankly offsetting the carbon because that's easy enough to do, but looking to actively reduce it as well.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. I mean, embodied carbon, is huge within the construction zone, within the construction industry, right? I mean, concrete, as much as it is probably the most prestigious and best way to build, it has a ton of embodied carbon. So anywhere where we can reduce that embodied carbon on the exterior side of the building, or variations that are not specific to structure, because I mean, let's be real, concrete is the right way to build, right? It's just you can't go taller than concrete, right? But if we can decarbonize some of the construction around that building, then we can just help make the world a better place, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we're working on here at Geotech is trying to reduce the embodied carbon in concrete, but yeah, being able to reduce it throughout the construction project, absolutely. So if we move on here, then I'm wondering, um, I guess maybe I think I may know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, how do you see Sapphire Balconies growing over the next 5 to 10 years? Are there any sort of big things you're working on that you could share, or in the, I guess, shorter term than that, but also in the longer term, how do you see things growing and evolving?
So, great question. I'm going to harken on the past here for a little bit. Sapphire Balconies has had a 20% growth rate year over year for the past 10 years in a row. We are growing fast and furious, and we were doing that by having the right people and the right markets on board. There was a lot of pre-work that went into ensuring Canada was the right market. And that same amount of work is going into ensuring, different portions of the US are you know, the right markets to be in. And when I say the right markets, I mean, we talked about disruptor earlier on. Being in those larger city centers, you're more apt to find people who are more disruptive in the way they want to build. They want to try new things. They want to be the first adopters, etc. And that's part of what makes it the right market. Also, I mean, we need to be real about that. There's a lot more buildings in those city sectors than there are in the rural parts of Canada and the US, right? When it comes to how do we see ourselves growing, I think that same kind of rate of growth is what we expect and what we anticipate. It's been a pretty good start. This year, we're hoping to be on quite a few more projects by the end of the year as well. Some high rises in Edmonton, etc. And how are we going to get there, and how are we going to grow to that? Well, we're producing Canada-centric designs. So we have what we're calling our sixth generation, and then Project Alpha, which I can't share details with you on, but I can tell you that they are a lighter weight balcony than anything we've ever produced up to now. They are strong. Here in Canada, we have to deal with a 4.8 kilonewton per meter squared load on the balcony, whereas in the rest of the world, it's generally a lot lighter than that. Europe is 2.5 kPa just per meter squared, just so kind of, or kilonewton per meter squared, sorry, to kind of give you a contrasting note. We're building balconies that are looking better, than the balconies that we have here, and that's, I think, going to be the secret sauce to our growth here is providing balconies from a commercial viability standpoint that are going to have longevity. I mean, I hope to be driving down. I've done this before with my kids. Every construction professional has, I think. You're driving downtown and be, I worked on that building, and I worked on that building, and I worked on that building, and I love to be able to do that. And what I'd like to do in 10 years from now is drive down and say, you see all those balconies? That was us. One of the kind of pride points that I have with Sapphire is, my first couple of days with the company, they took me down to Wembley Stadium, and all surrounding Wembley is blocks of condos. and I don't think we could find a balcony that wasn't a sapphire balcony on those blocks. And that's what I want down here. That's what we'd like to have down here in Toronto and the Canadian market. So I mean, back to the original question, how do we see ourselves growing? Rapidly, fast and furiously. How are we going to get there? Bespoke products for the Canadian market, and bespoke team here. So we do have a team being set up, myself included. We have offices here, so satellite offices. We have partner companies here that we're joint venturing with. There are a whole host of different ways that we're going to get there. Engineering, balcony engineering is not a thing right now. It's generally the structure, right, that does the slab, and then everything else is out of a catalog. We're bespoke engineering every balcony, and we have some pretty big name players in the market backing us, with that engineering, RJC, RDH, some of all the big major structural people and facade people, and they're the right people to be with, because they have that knowledge base. So yeah, I mean that's how, fast, furiously, and with as much vigor and passion as we have in the UK and Europe.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer. I think that super. I like how you broke down to how you're going to get there as well. It's not just it's more than a vision. There's also a plan to get there.
The executive staff has beat it into me consistently and constantly. When I say we're driven and we're focused, we're absolutely driven and focused as a company, and with individuals within the company as well. So
Yeah, nice. So we're sort of getting towards the end here. I'm going to ask one more question before we wrap up. So you've been in construction, like you mentioned, for a pretty long time and in various different parts of the industry. So I'm wondering, how have you seen the industry evolving over that time? And also, what other sort of innovations have you seen recently, apart from balconies, that excite you?
So yeah, I mean, construction. I was my first engineering class, drafting class, was done on a. I sound like an old man all of a sudden, but was done on a drawing board. The second drafting class I had was on a computer with AutoCAD. It was kind of early adoption of AutoCAD at Guelph University, and it was pretty cool. So I've seen construction go from paper to digital already, and I thought that was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Now we're watching construction go low carbon, as you said, trying to reduce carbon within concrete structures and stuff. And I think that's the best thing since sliced bread. That's been a push for the last 5, 6, 10 years. Now coming into this next decade of construction, I think we're going to see a push to modularity. And I think that statement is backed pretty heavily by the current government as well, with a $25 billion influx into modular building, right? I mean, that's going to be the next wave. The next wave of construction will be modular building. And I think people get that wrong. They think modular building is the same old thing over and over and over again. The same looking buildings. If you go back to the 1980s, we call them 1980s government buildings. They were all just concrete buildings with that red brick facade, and that giant door at the front that was just awful from a design perspective these days, but back then was the secret sauce, right? So we're going to see modular kind of coming in as a whole. With modular, I think comes a variation of different shifts within the industry. So site-based work is going to move more into the digital design phase and be done off-site. I think we're going to see that as a whole, and I think we need to see that as a whole. If I'm being honest, with interest rates and inflation and everything the way it is, I don't think we can afford to build on site anymore. It just doesn't make financial sense. So from all the builders that are listening to this, and all the developers that are listening to this, I mean, modular might be a way to do this less expensive. Modular is a way to do this less expensive. Back to a point I was trying to make a little bit earlier. It's not about modular being the same thing over and over again. It's about modular chunks of a building. Let's say, so you'd have a bathroom pod, right? And you'd have a one-person bathroom pod or a two-person bathroom pod. Where you place it is irrelevant. That pod is going to be manufactured, off-site, and then brought to site. There's a big push towards this modularity, and a big push against it from a lot of the trades. And I don't say trades in a negative way, like I'm going to say electrical and plumbing trades. And I don't say this in a negative way. They have a hard job, right? They have a hard job as it is. So they're thinking, well, how's someone else going to be able to do this off-site? And they're not. To be clear, they're not. We're still going to have to run all these pipes up, and run all the water supply and all the drains, etc., all the venting. That's all going to have to happen still. But what won't have to happen is that they won't have to come in and finish a bathroom. They'll just have to connect the bathroom, right? That's kind of the vision of modularity that I see, and I think is going to be proficient in the industry. Modular from a perspective of exterior facade. Curtain Wall's been doing it for years. Curtain Wall has been doing it for years. Let's take big chunks of the building and put it together like a puzzle on the outside. And I mean, it doesn't take much, but I mean, if you follow the Bay Adelaide Center, for instance, or the new CIBC building in downtown Toronto, you'll see that, the facade was flying right up behind the concrete. So they're as fast, if not faster than concrete. And I mean, we use the term bumping our heads on the concrete, guys, quite often in the facade industry. And that's modularity in practice. That's what that is. We've taken an entire industry and been able to shift it to modular. The time on site is greatly reduced. The time creating seals is greatly reduced, right? So how do we bring that into the inside of the building now? How do we do that? Well, maybe modular walls, right? We have sections of wall. Our architects are pretty intelligent people, and they're pretty creative people. So if you tell them we have this many sections to deal with, and you can place them in any variation you want, but there's a 4-foot section, an 8-foot section, a 10-foot section of the mising wall. They'll play with that and make some awesome out of it. I'm sure of it, right? So that's the way I see modularity kind of coming into effect in the industry as a whole. We're seeing portions of it already. I'm going to harken back to Vienna House here again in Vancouver. I mean, it was a totally offsite built structure, right? The wood CLT came in panels, and they plunked it into place, and they screwed it together, and that was it, done. Building up, right? I mean, it sounds easy, and it was. They made it look easy. The guys made it look easy here, but it's modular can be aesthetically pleasing as well. It doesn't have to be that old style that everybody thinks of, right? There's going to have to be a bit of a shift to design parameters at the onset of a building. So being able to put a little bit more of that money forward in design, I think is going to be a hard shift for people to understand, because generally the large portions of money come at the end of the building, pay out at the end of the building, but you're going to see some of that money shift forward. So being able to design up front and have that designed up front means that we can manufacture in factories and better build, right, as a whole. So I guess that's my spiel. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. It's a different take than I've had most people take that question. So it's interesting your different perspective and hearing your vision. It's good. So then, yeah, to wrap up here, why, if people are interested in learning more about Sapphire Balconies and Modular Balconies, and also interested in exploring this solution for an upcoming project, where should they go, and what does that process look like?
Yeah, I mean, reach out to our sales team, sales at sapphire-na.com. That'll get you any one of our professionals from the sales side. Feel free to reach out to me. I mean, my information is available on LinkedIn at any time. So happy to take calls, of that manner. The process is send us some drawings and we'll send you a solution. I mean, it's as simple as that. So we have an entire set of pre-con professionals that will design a solution, myself included, design a solution that's bespoke for your building, and work through any of the issues that come up along the way. That's what we do. We provide a streamlined solution, and that's our way of doing business.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much again for your time and for your input and your knowledge about modular construction. It's been great learning about that and learning about Sapphire Balconies, and I'm excited to see more Sapphire Balconies all over and stand on one soon.
Stephen, I very much appreciate you having me on and the invitation to be here. And thank you for your time and your insight into the whole construction world as a whole. I'm appreciative of that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.